A tiny mining company claimed it found one of the biggest gold deposits on Earth. Investors believed it. Banks believed it. Analysts believed it. The stock exploded. Billions of dollars appeared on paper. Then the geologist at the center of the discovery got into a helicopter over the Indonesian jungle and never made it out alive. A few days later, the gold mine started falling apart because the mine that made everyone rich may not have had gold at all. This is the Bre-X scandal. And this is how a fake gold discovery became one of the biggest mining frauds in history. Bre-X was not some giant mining empire. It was a small Canadian company based in Calgary. Before the scandal, it was the kind of stock most people ignored. Small company, high risk, big promises. Then Bre-X got involved with a gold project in Busang, a remote area in East Kalimantan, Indonesia. That location mattered. It was far away, hard to verify, expensive to inspect, and perfect for a story people wanted to believe. Because in mining, one discovery can change everything. A tiny company can become a giant overnight if it finds the right deposit. And Bre-X started telling the market it had found exactly that. The story started with core samples. In mining, workers drill into the ground and pull out long cylinders of rock. Those samples get tested. If the rock contains enough gold, the site may be valuable. If it contains a lot of gold, the site can become worth billions. Bre-X said the Busang samples were incredible. Then the estimates kept growing. First, it looked like a major find. Then it looked like a world-class find. Then it looked like something almost impossible. The company's value climbed with every announcement. Investors saw a small stock turning into a once-in-a-generation gold play. By the mid-1990s, Bre-X had become a market obsession. People did not want to miss it. That is when the story became dangerous. Because when everyone wants the same thing to be true, fewer people want to be the person who questions it. The scam worked because it did not look like a cartoon scam. It looked technical. It had maps, drill results, geologists, reports, resource estimates, corporate announcements, mining language most regular investors could not easily challenge. To the average person, it sounded official. To investors, it sounded like opportunity. To analysts, it sounded like the next giant mine. And the more the stock rose, the more the rising price became proof in people's minds. If the market believed it, maybe it was real. If big money was buying in, maybe it was safe. If experts were talking about it, maybe the risk had already been checked. But that is the problem with a market frenzy. Sometimes the price stops reflecting evidence. It starts reflecting fear of missing out. At the center of the Busang discovery was Michael de Guzman. He was Bre-X's chief geologist at the project. He was one of the key people tied to the gold sample results. If the samples were real, he was connected to one of the greatest discoveries in mining history. If the samples were fake, he was standing near the center of the entire fraud. For a while, the story held. The gold estimates kept getting attention. Brex kept climbing. The company became worth more than 6 billion Canadian dollars at its peak. A stock that once looked like a gamble had become a national obsession. People who got in early looked brilliant. People who stayed out looked cautious. And caution looked stupid. Until outsiders started checking the rock. The problem with a fake mine is that eventually someone else has to test it. Brex needed partners. A discovery this large could not stay as a story forever. It needed development, infrastructure, government approval, mining power. That brought in Freeport-McMoRan, a major mining company. Freeport started doing its own due diligence. That means they started checking the claim for themselves. And this is where the fraud ran into its biggest problem. The outside samples did not match the Bre-X story. The reported mountain of gold started looking like dust. Then came the sentence that destroyed everything. Freeport's testing found insignificant amounts of gold. Not less gold. Not disappointing gold. Insignificant gold. The kind of result that does not just lower a company's value. It attacks the entire story. On March 19, 1997, Michael de Guzman boarded a helicopter in Indonesia. He was supposed to travel to the Busong site. The pressure around the project was rising. The outside testing was closing in. The company's future depended on the truth inside those samples. Then de Guzman reportedly fell from the helicopter. Officials called it suicide. But the story became even stranger because his body was found days later in the jungle. By then, questions had already started. Was it suicide? Was it murder? Did he escape? Those theories never fully disappeared. But for the case itself, one thing mattered immediately. The man tied to the samples was gone. and the gold claim was about to collapse. After Freeport's results, Bre-X pushed back. The company wanted more testing, more review, more time. But the market was already panicking. The stock started crashing. Investors who thought they owned part of a massive gold discovery were suddenly holding shares in a company that might own nothing. Then, independent review made the picture worse. The core samples had been salted. That means outside gold was added to the samples to make the rock look valuable. In plain English, someone appears to have made worthless samples look rich. That is why the scam was so effective. The fraud did not need to fake an entire mine in front of everyone. It only needed to fake the evidence people trusted. The drill core was supposed to be the proof. Instead, it became the crime scene. Once the sample fraud became clear, Bre-X fell apart fast. Trading stopped. The stock became nearly worthless. Investors lost billions. Some were regular people, some were major institutions, some were pension funds. The people who bought into the dream were left with one question: how did this get so far? The answer is uncomfortable. Because the scam did not survive through one mistake. It survived through many. Too much trust in rising numbers. Too much faith in technical reports people did not fully understand. Too much excitement around a discovery that seemed too profitable to question. And too much distance between the people buying the stock and the ground where the gold was supposed to be. The legal aftermath was messy. Bre-X became a warning sign for the entire mining industry. The scandal helped push Canada towards stronger mining disclosure rules. Those rules were meant to make companies provide clearer technical information and make it harder to sell investors on weak or misleading mineral claims. But for many investors, that came too late. David Walsh, the founder of Bre-X, died in 1998. John Felderhoff, a senior Bre-X figure, was charged with insider trading and later acquitted. Michael de Guzman was gone before the full collapse played out. That left the public with losses, lawsuits, theories, and very few satisfying answers. No clean courtroom moment fixed the damage. No simple ending explained every detail. The money vanished, the gold vanished, the company vanished, and the mystery stayed. Bre-X worked because it sold a story people already wanted. A small company beats the odds. A remote jungle hides a fortune. Early investors become rich. Experts confirm the dream. The market rewards the believers. That story is dangerous. And in fraud cases, the story is often the weapon. The fake gold did not just sit in rock samples. It sat in headlines, stock charts, investor meetings, rumors, predictions, and the belief that someone else had already checked the truth. That is how scams scale. They do not need every person to be careless. They only need enough people to assume the hard questions were already answered. Bre-X was not just a mining scandal. It was a failure of trust. The company claimed there was gold in the ground. The market treated the claim like wealth. Investors treated the wealth like proof. And by the time the proof was tested, billions had already moved. That is the lesson. Fraud does not always start with a fake identity or a forged document. Sometimes it starts with a number that keeps getting bigger, a number so profitable that everyone wants it to be real. Bre-X promised one of the richest gold deposits on Earth. In the end, the most valuable thing it produced was a warning. The mine was fake. The losses were real. And the one man who may have known the most fell from the sky before the truth fully hit the ground.